Madam Ombudsman, thank you so much for taking this Inside Government interview. Let me begin by asking first and foremost for you to explain the overall vision of the Office of the Ombudsman.
Thank you so very much for having me. As I always say, I'm always available to give information to the people. Well, I must say our vision, the way we have constructed this, is to give good leadership for Sint Maarten with government and related administrative bodies characterized by good governance and responsive to the needs of the people. That's why we always say the way we translate this vision of leadership, the Ombudsman listens, the Ombudsman investigates the complaints of the people against government or government bodies, and then recommend to government, to the administration, how to remedy a certain situation or situations in the general interest of the people.
Tell us a little bit about the activities of the Office of the Ombudsman over the last 4 years.
Of course, 2010 was a very short year because we only had 3 months. However, we hit the ground running. Ombudsman was not an institution known to Sint Maarten, and I didn't have a staff. My first staff was the Secretary General. I was so lucky and happy to have her. That was Miss Patricia Phillips, and she has been a civil servant for over 35 years at the time. And so we took the law. There were only 2 articles in the Constitution and a law on Ombudsman. And we took the law and dissected completely. In the first year, we called it then the birth of a new institution. We made the standard forms as we try to figure out, yes, on our own what this means. Immediately I realized that since we have no precedents, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. So I immediately went out there internationally and in the region to start networking, to learn what this institution is all about. So the second year, we termed it Building a Solid Foundation. In that year, we put together all that we need to move forward. As I said, networking was very high on the agenda. In that first year, I made trips to Vienna to learn how to investigate, because what does the Ombudsman investigate? Propriety. Propriety is a word not used in our community. Propriety means proper conduct. We investigate if in the relationship between government and the citizens, if government acts properly. So that was establishing the foundation. The year after, 2012, we termed it Focus on the Building Blocks. We knew now what we are looking at, and we made a strategic plan in 2011. We compiled a handbook, putting together all laws and procedures that we need for the institution, and we start building on it, having the proper staff, having our infrastructure in place. And then lastly, in 2013, we continued to work on finalizing the home, completing it. So 2013, we worked towards completing the structure. That is saying in short terms. However, there were some cardinal points that we still had to do, and my report of 2013 was named Completion Pending Finalizing the Punch List. And in 2014, we finalized the punch list. And this year, we are really breathing and operating from a perspective to step up our game.
With the establishment of the Office of the Ombudsman in 2010, tell us what was the first area that your office chose to focus on, and explain other areas that your office chose as priority to execute over the last 4 years.
Understanding the task. Understanding the task because it was a new institution. It is a High Council of State. We never had a High Councils of State. So we looked at what are the basic tools that we need for this institution to function. We took, for example, the law. The law has certain requirements for a person to be able to file a complaint. Now, while the basic premise is that everybody should know the law, I don't expect everybody, when they want to file a complaint, go and look at the law. So what did we do? We made a complaint form. And in that complaint form, we made sure that all the requirements that a person has to abide to when filing a complaint, that they are readily there. So a citizen doesn't have to come back because they don't have this, they didn't fill in that. No, we made a complaint form. Then, okay, what else do we need apart from that complaint form? Procedures. So we said we need to establish procedure, but remember the first year, 2010, was a short year. So what we did, after 2010, putting in the basics for understanding the institution, in 2011, we start going out. The SG and the first complaint officer and our administrative staff, they went to Curacao, to the Ombudsman institution there to learn what it is all about. My complaint officer went to the Netherlands and learned there from the institution in Amsterdam. I went to Vienna, learned how to do investigation, and with all that information we came back and we continue to build, yes? And we start really now cementing the foundation. Then, that was 2011, we built up we solidified our network because, again, we did not have a Ombudsman institution, so we have to learn from others. I must also say in 2011, together with the other High Councils of State, the Advisory Council and the General Audit Chamber, we organized a symposium because those also were new institutions in our country. So we did a symposium to inform the people what High Councils of State are really about. It's about checks and balances. The High Councils of State are provided by a constitution outside the daily running of government for the checks and balances. So in 2012, after making a handbook, and very important too, in 2011, we made a strategic plan. A strategic plan to define how we're gonna build this institution over the coming 10 years, year by year. And I must say, it was the best thing that we could do because we could follow structurally what we're doing and where we are heading. And it was not just randomly trying to do something. No, we have really planned it. And the good thing is we are on target.
How is the Office of the Ombudsman funded in order to execute its tasks?
Okay. We are a High Council of State, an organ of the state, of the country, so we while we are independent, the people pay for it. I always say the people pay for it. Why? We are on the budget for the operation of the institution and on the budget of the country. And that's why also, of course, the services of the Ombudsman to the public are free. I'm always saying they're free because the people pay for it through taxes. Of course, to build the institution, there was much more money needed than the operational cost. And there is where a fund made available by the Netherlands was used. Sint Maarten had a certain fund for the building up of the country. There was a fund for the High Councils of State. So the Ombudsman was allocated a certain portion of that fund for the building of the institution. And so our infrastructure and the basics for the building came from the USONA funds.
Were there any challenges in executing the complaint system and carrying out the tasks of the office?
Of course, to handle complaint, while we have put the procedures in place, that is theory, we had to see how it works. So 2011, we termed our dry run period, where the first 6 months, more or less, we gave people the opportunity to file complaints, and then we started to investigate, but mostly by doing intervention. Because remember, we were not properly set up, and as I said, I was regularly going abroad, getting information. What did I realize at that point in time? That confidentiality is so important. And I immediately then, after the first half year, stopped accepting complaints because our infrastructure, our IT system was not solid enough to guarantee that confidentiality. So we knew we had to work on that aspect of the whole setup of the office. So that was a challenge. However, again, not reinventing the wheel. We looked at Curacao, what they're doing, and we implemented about more or less the same system. That dry run period taught us, though, that we needed, apart from the infrastructure, also proper training, because we are investigating propriety. And I keep saying, up to today, it is a challenge because propriety is not a common word in our community. Proper conduct. So we had to not only educate the administration what propriety means. Propriety goes beyond the law, and I will go into that in a while, yes. But we too had to understand how to investigate propriety. How do you investigate proper conduct? What does that mean? So apart from liaison with other colleagues, I requested the National Ombudsman of the Netherlands to send me one of his top agents to come and be with us here for 6 months to help us understand, train my staff, help and the SGs, help government understand what propriety is. And so we have learned what propriety is and what we are looking for in investigating. We developed about 23 norms, standards that government have to adhere to when dealing with the citizens. We're looking at 4 categories. Make sure you respect the human rights, the fundamental rights of the citizens. Make sure that when you take decisions, you look at the way you come to that decision, the procedures, but also how you come materially, the content of a decision. you have to follow certain procedural steps, but also things like fair play, weighing the interest, the general interest and the individual interest. So you have to be reasonable. And at times, I mean, from not adhering to propriety for many years, and you have to switch, you have to be reasonable. And then lastly, which is the biggest category, proper treatment in the sense of due care. Yeah? And so it's an ongoing process. We are not there yet, but most departments are understanding now what we're doing. We're not just looking over the shoulder of the civil servant to say you're doing this wrong. No, we are there to teach them. I'm always telling civil servants on a certain seat, you are the civil servant, but at the other window, you are a citizen. And you have to treat the citizen the same way that you would want to be treated at another window.
Tell us a little bit about the Constitutional Court and how it relates to the Office of the Ombudsman.
I think, first of all, I like to commend those that worked on our Constitution before 10 because Sint Maarten is the only country within the Dutch Kingdom that has a Constitutional Court. There used to be a theory that laws are sacred, that nobody can touch a law promulgated by the highest legislative body, Parliament. However, what's the Constitutional Court all about? I call it the stok achter de deur, the last resort. Because when one makes law, the entities have to look very narrow and carefully at how a law is being established. The Advisory Council, as the highest body, gives advices. However, we have seen that during the parliamentary debate, for example, one can deviate from the advice of the Advisory Council and establish a law contrary to the advices. What's the Constitutional Court all about? The Constitutional Court can review such a law. Not only a law that has been established and approved by Parliament, but also other regulations of decrees established by government or ministerial decrees, yes? The Constitutional Court can also look at that. And of course, somebody has to alert the Constitutional Court. According to the Constitution, the Ombudsman is charged with that task of scrutinizing all laws and regulations that are being ratified by government, and if by any means it is contrary to the Constitution, procedural-wise or content-wise, the Ombudsman can present it to the Constitutional Court. And yes, lo and behold, we made use of that possibility. In 2013, we presented our first case to the Constitutional Court to not only look at certain laws which we believed were unconstitutional, but also I brought certain procedures to the Constitutional Court. For example, the law provides that the Ombudsman has 6 weeks after a law is ratified by government to the Constitutional Court. We are new. When is a law ratified? How does the Ombudsman get these laws? The Ombudsman gets 6 weeks. If government sent that law before, 1 day before the 6 weeks expired, of afterwards, then it stops. So those procedures, I was in negotiation with the government. We had conferences, meetings, even with the governance cabinet. However, I felt that that part of the law was not being adhered to. So when I got this big law, the criminal code, and I could not establish when that law was ratified. I also put that to the Constitutional Court. So going to the Constitutional Court with our first case helped establish rules and regulations for government, for Parliament, because the Constitutional Court outlined 5 principles, 5 basic principles that they will adhere to. And yeah, I think it was a very good thing, because knowing that the Ombudsman, at least this Ombudsman, will surely take a law to the Constitutional Court if it is contrary to the Constitution, also safeguards that Parliament, but also government, will scrutinize the way that a law comes into being.
What is the formation plan and when was it approved?
The formation plan, as I was indicating, the journey to establish the institution, the law provides exactly that there is one ombudsman, and the ombudsman has a bureau. That bureau, the formation of it, the people that work in it, everything is properly outlined. And that plan had to be approved by Parliament. That is also, the formation plan is something that I worked on together with the SG in 2010 and presented it to Parliament. It was ratified by Parliament and established in February 2011, which gave us the opportunity to continue to recruit persons.
Let's go back and look at the complaint system. Between the period of 2010 to 2011, what kind of complaints did your office receive? And how exactly did the Office of the Ombudsman handle such complaints?
As I said, we did first a dry run period in 2011, 2012. After we had the infrastructure in place, we did not operate a full year accepting complaints. However, we continued. I must say, the very first year we had more complaints in, statistically, you would see that we handled more complaints than the years after. Why? Because we did not scrutinize as well as we are scrutinizing now. After the first year, we established, okay, we have to scrutinize complaints that we will investigate, or complaints that we will do an intervention, or complaints that come in and the Ombudsman is not competent or authorized to investigate such a complaint based on the law. So we have now 2 main registries, complaint handling, whereby the complaints are, those that we have on that list are really complaints complying to the law. And then we have other very long list where we look at the complaint. Maybe the person did not inform the body, the administrative body, about the complaint prior to our investigation. So we tell the person, no, you have to inform the administrative body first, because you can imagine, if I'm coming to investigate you, at least I expect that you know about it and that you had a chance to deal with it. So in all fairness, it could be that it's a complaint not against an administrative body, not against a government body. So yes, the access to the Ombudsman increases. However, statistically, we are investigating less complaints than the first year.
Who does the Office of the Ombudsman report to?
By law, we report to the Parliament. According to the law, yearly I make a report of the previous year, and I have an agreement with Parliament that the first week in the month or in the month of August before the next opening of the parliamentary year, the Ombudsman is invited to the Central Committee of Parliament to present the report, and then the members of Parliament also has the chance to ask questions. And of course, a copy is sent to the ministers, to the Secretary Generals, and it is available for the public. We normally print about 200 copies and distribute it to our different stakeholders. As you know, we are yearly going to the districts, and so we also distribute them to the different associations and the district communities, because our work should be known to the public. The public should know that the Ombudsman listens to their complaint against government or government entities, investigates and recommend, so they can see from our reports to what we've been doing.
What is the theme and approach for the Office of the Ombudsman now going forward?
Okay, as I indicated, we had step by step a strategic plan in building this institution. My report 2014 will be termed delivery, because at this point in time we have everything in place. So what's left now? Stepping up our game, strengthen and improve our operation. We really focused on that in 2014, and with everything in place, staff trained, we are stepping up our game in 2015.
Any final words that you'd like to share with the general public as it relates to the Office of the Ombudsman?
We are there for you. We are not the lawyers for the citizens, but we are the protectors of the rights of the citizens. We are the voice for the people, the voice instituted by the Constitution to look at how government treats its citizen. So if our community want to move forward and have a government that applies good governance and give proper service, it's their obligation to file complaints with the Ombudsman so that we can investigate and recommend government to improve service to the public.